Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Four podcast. Uh, Luke and Mike are here with me today. This is a rare occurrence. Alex is not here. One of the first times we've had that happen. Unfortunate. Hopefully he'll be back next week.
Shocked.
Yes, hopefully he'll be back next week. Okay, so the standings for the picks. Mike is in first place at 29 and 10. Luke and I are tied for second at 23 and 16. And somehow Alex is only 2 games behind us at 21 and 18, despite only picking games in 1 week of the season.
Yeah, I don't think he sent his picks all year.
Yeah, so he's picked games once this year, and he is somehow still only 2 games out of second place. Interesting.
It matters. If he never picks, he's going to be in last place anyway.
Okay, so let's.
He's never gotten the game wrong, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. So we're going to start with some Big 12 topics here. We'll start with Iowa State beating Oklahoma. We have reactions to this.
Oh, what a win for Matt Campbell. He's the best coach in the Big 12. It's not even close. He's going to be up for a big-time job next year. Not sure. Maybe he'll go to Texas because Tom Herman needs to get his ass fired. He needs to be canned faster than anybody. He's the number 1 coach on the hot seat. He's the worst coach in the
Well,
in the
actually, did you check coacheshotseat.com?
I have not checked, but Tom Herman definitely number 1.
You need to check that.
I think number 1 actually is I forget who it is, but it's
the guy from Navy.
I'll check it right now. No, it's not Ken Niumatalolo. It's Clay Helton. Tom Herman's number 4.
All right.
But he needs to go. Mike Gundy's number 13, apparently.
All right.
He needs to go. Tom Herman needs to go. Matt Campbell takes over that job in Texas. But great one for Matt Campbell. Oklahoma's struggling. Young quarterback, Spencer Radler. I think he'll be good in a couple years. He just needs some time. He hasn't looked great these first 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it's been. But Iowa State, sleeper team to win the Big 12.
Michael.
Shut up.
You going to have a reaction to this?
Sure. Start on the Oklahoma side of things. Obviously, expectations were high coming into the season, top 5 ranking. But I think it's clear to everybody that this is going to be a rebuilding year for Oklahoma. They lost a lot of people, and I didn't think last year's team was very good anyway. They got destroyed by Joe Burrow in the semifinal. Joe. Well, Oklahoma, the last 4 years, ever since Lincoln Riley's been there, they've been carried by a quarterback. Went from Baker to Kyler to Jalen Hurts, and now they have a young guy, inexperienced, who isn't that. He will be good, but he's not that good right now. So I think that hurts him. Yeah, and I think that Lincoln Riley he's trying to recruit the defensive side of the football a little better, but that's still a couple of years out. There's no pressure in Oklahoma. They've been great for so many years in a row. It's okay to have a down year once in a while. For Iowa State, I think this was the game they really had to have. They haven't beaten Oklahoma at home in like 60 years. And, Matt Campbell, very good coach. He wants to get even higher in the coaching rankings, rung, see if he can get a better job. He needs to he has a couple of those upsets every year, but it was nice for him to get this one. I wasn't even sure it was an upset. I think Iowa State's overall better team right now. Yeah. Oklahoma's just, they're too young at quarterback, offensive line. The defense isn't where it needs to be. But they'll still beat Oklahoma State.
No. Oklahoma, this is embarrassing. It all falls back to me. For me, it's all on the quarterback. Spencer Radler he's bad. He's really bad. He should be benched. They should think about benching him.
He's a freshman.
Yeah, well, I don't care. He's bad. He's real bad.
He's like Bo Nix last year.
He's real bad.
He's way better than Bo Nix. Not even close.
They should think about benching him. I'm serious. It's
For
embarrassing.
who?
I don't know, whoever's on their bench, because he hasn't been good enough.
Their other freshman quarterback, they have like 5 freshman quarterbacks.
No, last year, Mike will talk about how they weren't very good and all that, but they would have these games like the Iowa State game, or even even the week before,
Iowa State game when they were up 28 points, and it was a 2-point. Iowa State was a 2-point conversion away from taking it.
And you can talk about all these games. The 23 Baylor game. There were plenty of games last year that Oklahoma should have lost.
The TCU game where they got a BS call.
Yeah, but they didn't, because Jalen Hurts always came through. He never choked. He always came. He came through 100% of the time when they needed him.
Except for when they could take the lead in the first place. He always choked in the first 3 quarters of the game to go down by 28 points.
He might have been the best fourth quarter quarterback in the country last year. It was
because Joe Burrow didn't have to play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
They built up such a big lead in the first 3. What about Brian Lewerke?
Yeah, Brian Lewerke. But anyways, Jalen Hurts, he always came through. Rattler, this is 2 weeks in a row. He's made horrendous throws to end the game. I mean, I'm really worried.
He's a young quarterback. He's a freshman.
Yeah, I don't care. You don't get the clutch gene. You don't get the clutch. You either have it or you don't. Bo Nix.
What do they say? What do they say about freshman quarterbacks? Your ceiling as a freshman when you have a freshman quarterback's 8-4, excluding the great teams like Ohio State. There's too many unknowns when it comes to a freshman quarterback. It's hard.
Say what you want. You don't get the clutch gene. Look at Bo Nix. You can say what you want about Bo Nix, and he's not great. He's okay.
He's horrible.
He always comes through in the fourth quarter. When you need a throw, he makes it.
Oh yeah, especially last year against LSU.
No, it was LSU.
It's been 2 games.
The guy makes big throws. Rattler does not make big throws. He's a choke artist. The guy's not very good. He reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert. In the fact that he is really good in the first 3 quarters, and then just completely gags the games away. It's embarrassing. So this is going to be a guy that I'm going to rag on for the next 3 years because he chokes, and I'm going to start it right here today. He needs to be benched. He is terrible. Oklahoma needs to look at their quarterback situation, and they need to examine it closely because there's no reason they should be out of the rankings with the talent they have on their team.
Chris, are you racist against albino people? This is embarrassing.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, you also didn't like the point guard from TCU a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, I really didn't like him. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Texas, another great Big 12 team. TCU.
Oh, my God.
TCU beats Texas, who had Texas winning the national championship? Oh, yes, Luke.
I didn't have him win the national championship.
Oh, sorry.
He hasn't gone to the playoff.
Making the playoff and playing Texas A&M, who we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But anyways, Texas, they lose TCU. They should be 1-2, but they are 2-1. Reactions to Texas?
Yeah, Tom Herman needs to go. He is the worst. He is the worst coach, I think, at any major program in the country. Do you know Ohio State had more guys drafted in the top 3 draft picks last year in the draft than Texas has had in the first 2 rounds under Tom Herman.
Wow.
He brings in top 10 recruiting classes every year, and he can't develop. He gets no development out of these players. They always suck. They're the most undisciplined team in the country, probably because he's undisciplined as the coach. What the AD needs to do is bring some strippers to his house and then investigate it and fire him because everyone knows he loves strippers. Him and who's the other guy from Ohio State that he brought in?
Zach
Urban
Smith?
Meyer. Yeah, Zach
The quarterback
Smith.
from Tulsa?
No, him and Zach Smith love the strippies, going to the strippies together. So, whatever the AD needs to do to get Tom Herman fired, he needs to do. Because he is the worst coach I've ever seen. He's so bad.
Yeah, there's no excuse for what Texas is putting out on the field as a product. They have, into the 24/7 composite rankings, they have the 5th best roster in college football. And to me, like Luke said, that's about development. I think it's about discipline. Just way too many penalties the past 2 games. You got a senior quarterback. This roster is built to win and win now. And they're not. They
should be at least a top 2 team in the Big 12 every single year. Them and Oklahoma are the top.
They have more talent.
Every once in a while, Baylor might have a team like last year.
TCU might have a good team like in 2014, but Texas should be a top 2 team if they're not in the conference championship game every year, it's a disappointment.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not completely writing off Texas this year. I think with the amount of talent they have, they could easily get it together. This is the perfect week for them to get it together, too. If they come out and beat Oklahoma, beat them pretty good, and then all of a sudden their season's turned around. And
that's true. Oklahoma's on the down. You punch them in the mouth that first quarter, might turn into a slaughter.
Yeah, with the Big 12 being a joke, you only have the only game that I think Iowa State's going to be a little difficult, but Oklahoma State's going to be the game, and then you might play them again.
That's the game they always lose, too. They always lose to Oklahoma State.
Except for last year.
You got to look at patterns. They always lose to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, just like they always lose to TCU. I don't understand it. I mean, it makes no sense. Like Luke said, the talent's there, 5th best roster, and they're putting out that product. Makes absolutely no sense to me. To me, it feels like the law of averages. It's going to average out, and Texas is going to be a very good football team to end the season. We'll see.
No, it's not going to average out because they have a horrible coach.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with Luke. The coaching is a huge problem, and it has been a huge problem in the entire tenure of Tom Herman. I don't know if it's the culture or what, but they've underperformed probably the last 4 years with the talent they've had in their roster.
Every single year they've underperformed.
Yeah, I mean,
except for maybe that one year they went to the Sugar Bowl.
Okay, they still had 4 losses. They were still 9-4. Let's not act like they were some great team.
Stat?
Yeah, but they beat Georgia.
Tom Herman at Texas undefeated in bowl games.
Yeah, because the games don't matter. You can't win the big game.
No, it's because they always shit the bed in the regular season and end up playing in the Tax Care Holiday Bowl against freaking Marshall.
Yeah, and I think Luke said enough about Tom Herman, but I also want to look at the quarterback here, and I don't believe Sam Ehlinger has gotten any blame over his entire career in college. He's gotten no blame for any, and I'm sure he'll be back next year because this rule is here, but he's got no blame for anything. And I'm sorry, he was horrible against TCU. He was under 50% throwing. He only threw for 236 yards. That's not good enough. You're in the Big 12. Come on. That's an embarrassing performance from Sam Ehlinger. I was really disappointed in him. He was really outdueled by Duggan from TCU. So it falls on the coach and the quarterback. And it needs to improve, both sides, coach, quarterback.
Yeah. Sam Ehlinger has pulled a Trace McSorley and had his best year as a sophomore.
Pulled a Bryant Lewerke.
Pulled a JT Barrett. It's gotten significantly worse every year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brian Lewerke.
Well, Brian Lewerke had no help.
Oh, yes, of course. Okay.
Sam Ehlinger's got the number 5 roster in college football.
All right, let's move on. Let's get into some SEC talk here. Not sure why we didn't start with this, but this was the game of the week last week. Georgia handles Auburn on Saturday Night Football. Reactions to this?
Yeah, obviously a good win from Georgia. I think we were all questioning them after the game the week before. They couldn't score. And we were all questioning their offense, see what they could do. But they played really well against Auburn. And obviously, who did Auburn play that first week?
Kentucky.
That's right, Kentucky, and they beat them. And that was a good win. They were coming off a high. Georgia was coming off a low, but I think Georgia's going to be they're a good team. They're a well-coached team. They'll be up there every year.
Yeah. Well, I like to pat myself on the back for predicting this game. I didn't predict the final score perfectly, but I said Georgia would win in a Georgia-style blowout. I think I said like 9-6, which is a Georgia-style blowout, but it was even worse than that. Auburn is a joke, and they should be ashamed of themselves for coming out.
Gus Malzahn's back on the hot seat.
Horrible.
Yes, of course. We'll be back on the hot seat. Then they'll go 12-1 next year, and he'll be.
He's on the hot seat, and they'll end up beating Alabama at the end of the year to go like 9-3.
No, it's an even year. They're not going to beat Alabama this year. It's next year.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Here's my problem. Georgia just did whatever the heck they wanted to do because Auburn has not recruited well enough in the trenches. They looked horrible in the trenches. Bo Nix, he's not a good quarterback, and he's getting no help because the system that Gus Malzahn runs is horrible.
No,
It gives him
Chad
absolutely
Morris.
no chance of being successful. I don't even know what type of offense they run. It's all smoke and mirrors. It gives them zero chance to do anything offensively.
Mike, I want to know how they hired some sort of offensive mastermind and got worse on offense.
Got worse because they lost like 5 offensive linemen. That's why. They got nobody
It's on
on
Chad
that offensive
Morris.
line right now. They got the wide receiver. What's his name?
Williams?
Yes, Williams. Very good. Seth Williams, very good, but they need more than that. And they're just lacking in terms of talent, especially in the trenches. And it really shows in the SEC when you don't have the talent in the trenches. And that's why I don't like Auburn against any of those big SEC West teams. Like, I don't like them against Alabama. I don't like them against LSU. I don't like them against Texas A&M. I think they'll lose all those games.
All right, stop with LSU. Stop with LSU.
They do not have the talent in the trenches to compete. And it's not just offensively. Defensively, they were getting pushed around by an offensive line that couldn't move the ball against Arkansas. Like, are you kidding me? It has to go to Gus. Because what is this? Gus is like 8th year, and the dude has not done well enough in recruiting in terms of these guys in the middle. And I know Auburn's a very tough job, but it's just, I don't know. It's unexplainable. And then you give your quarterback zero chance when you hire Chad Morris, who's one of the worst coaches in the country, to run your offense. And even before even before Chad Morris was there, your offense sucked anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Mike said is fairly accurate. The offensive line is clearly a big problem for Auburn. I'll start with Georgia, though. I was impressed with Stetson Bennett. He made some throws that he needed to make. I still don't think they're going to beat any like Florida or Alabama with Stetson Bennett playing quarterback. JT Daniels needs to be the quarterback.
They would destroy Florida. Wouldn't even be close.
Yeah, no. Florida's much better than them. But anyways, I was impressed with Georgia. They were running the ball at will. They played really well in the first half. Auburn. A lot of what Mike said is true about the offensive line. Bo Nix was not impressive.
That's an understatement.
The running game is awful. They have no running game. And I mean, I guess you could say the defense, they weren't great. They were okay. But the biggest thing that this comes down to is the last number of the year. And this year, it's an even year.
Yeah, we wonder why our podcast has not grown the way that we thought it would. And we have people like Chris making those takes.
It's not a take, it's a fact. Look at the pattern. This team is great every odd year.
You know what? That's called extrapolation. That's what that
extrapolation, is. It literally happens every single time. It does every time.
Can we have some real analysis?
This is my real analysis. Podcast? My real analysis is that they will lose to the A&Ms, the Bamas, they'll beat LSU because LSU sucks, but they'll lose to those big teams this year. And they'll go what, like 6-4, and then next year they're going to come out and they're going to win the national championship. That's my official. You can heard it here first. They'll win the national.
I'm confused because what do you say? Every odd year they're good?
Yes.
They weren't even that good last year.
They were pretty good last year. They were 9-3. And they played really well.
They were 9-4. They lost. They got destroyed by Minnesota.
No one cares about. No one cares about meaningless bowl games.
Alabama.
They beat Alabama.
They were not very good football.
They beat Alabama.
They weren't great.
They beat Alabama. Who did they lose to? Florida, LSU, and who else? Georgia.
Florida, LSU. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Georgia.
Okay. Wow. I mean, they were really good last year.
Minnesota too. PJ Fleck.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
His boat in there and freaking destroyed
those games, they were in all those games. This team is a very average football team in even years. Just look at Jarrett Stidham's career there.
It's not an excuse. You're making excuses for him.
No, it's a curse.
They're paying Gus Malzahn $7 million to win.
Yeah, he's gonna win the whole thing next year. But Jarrett Stidham's junior year, they were. It was an odd year, and they were in the SEC championship game, one game away from going to the playoff. They lost that game, but the next year they were like 8-5 because it was an even year. The experienced senior quarterback who just had a great year his junior year. I mean,
also what happened that year? They made the SEC championship game. They ended up losing to UCF and embarrassing the SEC.
Yeah, well, no one cares about bowl games. You keep talking about bowl games.
Well, yes, they do. People care about bowl games because
no, they don't.
people
Nobody
care
cares.
about bowl games when you
They
win,
do.
and they don't care.
There's
when
no
you
other
win.
reason.
As
No
simple
other
as that.
reason. No other reason why Tom Herman has a job other than the fact that he's 4-0 in bowl.
No one cares about bowl games. But that's my analysis on Auburn. It's an even year. I fully believe in it. I believe that is the problem. All right, let's move on to our next game.
Chris was probably predicting UConn was going to win the national championship in basketball a couple of years ago when they had that streak going every other year.
Listen, I was right on the San Francisco Giants in 2014. I can be right on.
What about 2016?
Yeah, I was off on that, but that's all right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Another game in the SEC, Alabama pulls away in the second quarter and runs away with it against Texas A&M. Any reactions to this?
Yeah, Kellen Mond just isn't very good.
That's absurd.
Agreed.
He's a solid quarterback, but he's not going to win you any games, really. Any of these big games, he's not going to win you. Jimbo Fisher, they're a 9-3, 10-2 team every year. 10-2 is probably their ceiling. They just playing the hardest division in college football.
So they're going to make the playoff.
This year was just.
Luke, you did pick them to win, so
I went way out on a limb this year, and I'm crawling back. It's gotten a little windy up there, and I'm crawling back to try to hold on. I just come to the conclusion that it's hard to get the talent there at Texas A&M. Not only are you recruiting against the SEC, you're also recruiting against Texas and other schools in the area. Obviously, there's a lot of talent there, but there's also a lot of people coming down to try to poach that talent, and I just don't see Jimbo Fisher being the guy to bring Texas A&M to the next step.
I agree that Jimbo Fisher isn't the guy, but I agree for different reasons. I think A&M's recruited well. I think if you look,
they have, but they haven't recruited high enough level to compete with an Alabama or an LSU or a Georgia.
Here's the difference between the Texas A&M loss to Alabama and the Auburn loss to Georgia. Texas A&M was holding their own in the trenches against Alabama. Alabama couldn't run the ball to save their life. And Texas A&M offensively, to me, this is where they're always going to be handicapped. I talk about how bad Gus Malzahn's system is. Man, that pales in the comparison to how horrible of a system that Jimbo Fisher's running. I mean, what is this, 2011? Like, seriously. The offense that they're running, it may look like, some new concepts, but my goodness. I mean, they never push the ball down the field. It's always 5-yard outs. He doesn't give his quarterback a chance. And yes, Kellen Mond, I agree, he's not that good. And even with a good quarterback, I think Jimbo's going to be, all over him and not give him a chance to actually play. The game's changed, and you can't run the same offense you ran in 2013 with Jameis to win. It's not going to happen. And that game was troubling for A&M because they were holding their own in the trenches, and they still got blown out. That is a bad sign for the Jimbo Fisher era at Texas A&M.
Yeah, well, Jimbo Fisher's on the hot seat, so.
Okay.
That's what the hot seat rankings
absolutely say. Not. Here's the problem in this game. This was actually a really, really, really good football game up until about, what was it, like 3 minutes left in the second quarter?
Okay. Now, let's not act like A&M was in this game. They were lucky to be in this game. They were lucky to have 14 points.
It was 21-14, and A&M was driving down the field, and then Mond threw a pick six. And that was it right there.
That's Kellen Mond for you.
Here's my analysis of this. First of all, your defense can't give up that many points with Texas A&M's offense. That's the first thing. Second of all, the running game for Texas A&M, absolutely atrocious. Their lead back, 11 carries, 25 yards. Are you kidding me? How do you expect to win football games when you do that? That's unacceptable and can't happen. Mond wasn't even that bad. He was okay in this game. There were 318 yards.
Okay. They need Joe Burrow at Texas.
He was fine. He's a good quarterback. But the thing
The
is,
problem is he's not good enough. That's the problem.
he's good. He's a solid quarterback, and
he's good, but he's not good enough.
And he'll be back next year. Just to throw that out there. But he's solid, and I don't blame Kellen Mond for this game. I mean, the defense, really. I mean, you're going to give up 45 defensive points? Come on, you can't do that and expect to win.
I think this Alabama offense, I don't know if it's as good as it has been, but it's definitely one of the best offenses.
Oh, it's good. They're real good. They're real good. Mac Jones is good.
You can't cover all those receivers.
Yeah,
it's
and
impossible.
The receivers are good. This is a real good team. Definitely. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Alabama. No shame. All right. Let's talk a little ACC, and I actually like to have Mike start on this one. The Pittsburgh Panthers lose to North Carolina State. Mike, what's the excuse for your team this week?
What's the excuse?
Yeah, where's the excuse?
Man, I can't make an excuse. You had the game in the hands of your defense at the end of the game, and they couldn't hold it. It's as simple as that. And we've seen throughout the season, Pitt's won a lot of close games. And the reason why they have is because their defense. And against the North Carolina State team, which I've dogged on North Carolina State. I think Dave Doran's a good coach. He's been there for a while, and he knows how to win. He's recruited pretty well. I think NC State was overall a more talented football team than Pittsburgh. And, they got a quarterback there at NC State. He played really well. Drew Leary, very, very good game. 336 yards, 4 touchdowns. He played very well. And the Pittsburgh defense, it just wasn't good enough. Kenny Pickett played well, 411 yards. It's just your defense. That's what their calling card was coming into the season, was the defense. And it let them down, and it looks like they're out of the playoff race. It looks like they're out of the ACC race. It's not over yet, but it's not looking good, is it, for Pittsburgh? They lost to College this week, on the road at Miami, home to Notre Dame. I don't know. I don't think they could beat Miami. I think they have a chance against Notre Dame. Two very, very similar teams, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Luke?
Yeah, it's the ACC. I mean, other than Clemson, really, especially Pitt being in the ACC Coastal, they'll go freaking 6-6 every single year, and then maybe it'll be a different team to win the Coastal every year. I mean, I don't know what we expect. They win half their games, they lose half their games. You might as well freaking flip a coin to see if they'll win or lose, because that's how the ACC Coastal and Pitt work.
Well, yeah, the Coastals had 7 winners in the last 7 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Mike is right about the defense. I mean, yeah, it was an embarrassing performance defensively. I mean, they were passing the ball over the field, and Pickett was actually pretty good in this game. And he'll also be back next year in case you guys.
It's kind of a tough. He's the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a tough name to have if you're a quarterback.
Yeah, he'll be back next year, so that's something to watch. But embarrassing loss for Pitt.
Who's their backup quarterback?
They're a terrible team. I have no idea. But all right, so we're going to talk a little bit about. Actually, you know what? Let's get to this first. And I wish Alex was on here.
Talk about Greg Marshall?
No, I wish Alex was on here so we could talk about UCF a little bit more. But you guys have anything to say about Tulsa beating UCF?
No. I mean, here's the thing about UCF and any other Group of 5 team. They have 1 to 2 good years, and then they fall right back. Because what happens is that you get a stud quarterback come in that was under recruited, or you get 1 or 2 good recruiting classes who are underrated, and you outperform expectations, and they go in, you win 1 game against the Power 5 school that usually doesn't take the game as serious, and the Group of 5 school has more to play for than the Power 5 school in the bowl games, and that's why they win, and it's a one-off game. If you put them in a conference, I think like UCF a couple years ago, and they won the national championship, I think they would have been in the top half of any Power 5 conference. But would they have gone undefeated? No. But that's what happens with these Group of 5 teams every year. I think they deserve a shot to prove themselves because like Cincinnati this year, or who was the team last year, or even a couple years ago. I can't remember how many years ago it was, with Boise State and TCU, and they were both in the Mountain West. And these teams deserve a shot these years because they're not going to be contenders every year. But to act like 3 years removed that UCF's still going to be at the top of their game after they lost their coach that got them there, that's like trying to expect Western Michigan to still be good after they're no longer rowing the boat.
Yeah, I think that's generally been true for the Group of Five. I think the Boise State teams under Kellen Moore are probably the exception to that rule. I think they could have beaten anybody, and I mean they beat Oregon on the road. They beat a shit ton of teams, but I get your point, especially.
Yeah, they're the exception. They had a stud quarterback and Chris Peterson, a great coach.
Yes, that's true. And
when it comes to UCF, Scott Frost is a good coach, and he's a really good coach for UCF. But he's not a Chris Peterson. Same thing when it comes to Western Michigan. Had a great coach in PJ Fleck, but they didn't really have any great players. They had Corey Davis. Other than that, they didn't have anybody fantastic.
Yeah, and listen,
Boise State was the only one that had both a really good quarterback, really good players, and a really good coach.
Yeah, they were loaded all over the field. UCF, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of with Chris now when it comes to the Group of Five. They can't compete. When you're looking at college football, you look at in tiers. You got the first couple tiers with those great programs, and the truth is, the Group of Five they don't have any unless they get Notre Dame somehow, which won't happen. So they're stuck kind of in the middle in terms of being able to recruit. And
well, they can't. The problem with the Group of Five teams, they just can't do it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and listen, UCF, they've had a good run, and they're an okay team. This year, they've had some attrition. They're onto their third quarterback, who also after the game said they're still the best team in Florida. Which maybe they're definitely better than the University of Florida. Are they better than Miami? I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, Tulsa, props to them. They played very well. I'm happy for Philip Montgomery. He's had a tough couple of years there. Last year, I thought they'd be a lot better. They started out pretty well. This year, it looks like they're going to be a little bit better than last year, a lot better.
Mike, Florida Atlantic's undefeated right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how Tulsa ends their year. UCF, they still got their schedule ahead of them. If they can win out, beat Cincinnati, maybe they could sneak into the New Year's Six Bowl. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised with UCF. I don't waste my time on terrible teams like them. But I do want to talk about Tulsa because I believe I came on this podcast, if I remember correctly, I came on this podcast after week 1. And I believe there was a certain team that was being killed on this podcast by many people because of a 2-score win over Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting because UCF had 455 yards of total offense.
And lost.
And Oklahoma State couldn't move the ball at all.
Okay, so. And won. So anyways, that's a perfect segue into our next topic. We're going to talk about a couple conferences here, but we'll start with the Big 12.
Again?
Well, we're going to go into a couple. We're going to have your top 5 teams in a couple of conferences here.
Okay.
So the Big 12. Who are the top 5 teams in the Big 12? And is Oklahoma State the clear best team right now?
No. It's gonna come down to Kansas State and Iowa State in the Big 12.
All right. Okay.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for that championship game.
What are your top 5 teams right now? That's the question.
Right now, I do it based on performance and performance. What is going on?
Performance
here?
And performance.
No, performance and performance in conference. That's what it comes down to.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna ignore the out of conference embarrassing losses for Iowa State and Kansas State.
What do you mean, Iowa State? That's an embarrassing loss.
That's an embarrassing loss.
They were ranked number 24, and Louisiana Lafayette was the 23rd ranked team.
I don't care. That's
Chris,
an embarrassing loss.
Isn't Louisiana number 1 in the Collie poll right now?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
They were the higher ranked team when they were playing Iowa State that week. That was a great loss.
Yeah, great loss.
Yeah, listen, Louisiana's the number one team in the country if you go by certain metrics. So that's not a bad loss.
What have you done for me lately, as Mike would always say?
I mean, when you think about it, conference play is all that matters. When it comes to winning a conference championship, that's all that matters.
All right, my top 5 teams in the Big 12 are Kansas State number 1, Iowa State number 2, Oklahoma State number 3, TCU number 4, and after that, I don't even know. Kansas maybe, because Oklahoma sucks. Texas Tech sucks. Maybe Texas Tech. What is Alan Bowman? He's a good quarterback. See, I don't know what he's up to these days. He might be hurt again, but they have after the top 4, they're all trash. Texas is probably 5.
What happened to Alan Bowman? He didn't play. Did he play?
I don't know. I think he might have gotten hurt again.
He went 4 for 7 for 23 yards, and then this Columbia guy came in.
Kent Colombo?
Yeah, Kent Colombo came in for Texas Tech. Played pretty well.
Yeah.
He got an injury. He's day-to-day with an ankle.
Of course. Talking about a team getting injured. Ever since Chris was on Alan Bowman, he's gotten injured every week.
Well, I got off him because Cliff left.
Yeah, he's got off a cliff.
Exactly.
Right now, number 1, Oklahoma State for me.
That's absurd.
At least right now. I think Texas could catch him. But I have Texas 3rd. I have Iowa State 2nd. I know TCU lost to Texas, but I have them 4th. And number 5, you could put anybody. You could put Oklahoma there. You could put Kansas State there. You can put West Virginia there. I'll lean with the talent. I'll go with Oklahoma number 5.
No, you got to look at who has the best quarterbacks. Kansas State and Iowa State and TCU have the 3 best quarterbacks, and then you have Ellinger is really good, so that's the top 4 quarterbacks. I couldn't even tell you who Oklahoma State's
Spencer
quarterback is.
Sanders?
That's how bad he is. Who? Vince McMahon?
All right. I'm going to go into mine here.
Yeah, Oklahoma State's a joke.
Number 1 is clearly Oklahoma State. He's not even close. And then there's a huge drop-off. Like it was hard for me to rank the rest of these teams. Well,
Mike Gundy's on the hot seat, so
I'll say Iowa State 2, Kansas State 3, TCU 4, Texas 5. It's a joke of a conference, but there is one team that's pretty good, and they are running.
Well, don't get your hopes up, because Oklahoma State will find ways to destroy your confidence and take everything down.
No, they have 0 losable games in their schedule. They're going to go undefeated.
Well, except for Oklahoma, which they lose every year.
Actually,
it doesn't matter what the rankings are.
They have Saturday Night Football at Baylor. That's their only losable game.
Yeah, Baylor probably won't even be able to play that game because of COVID-19. We'll see.
All right, ACC. Who are the top 5 teams in the ACC?
Oh God, that's like choosing.
Well, it's better than the Big 12.
It's like choosing my top 5 hottest trannies. I mean, it's just like the ACC. Clemson's obviously number 1. After that, I'll probably go with. I'm not counting Notre Dame. They don't count.
Okay, they have to count. They're in the conference.
Nope, they're not in the conference. Clemson, and then I'll go Miami, then UNC, Virginia Tech, and Pitt, I guess. I don't know, that 5th spot you can really give to anybody. Yeah. Pitt, NC State. Obviously, NC State just beat Pitt, but I think Pitt's better overall at the end of the year.
Did you rank North Carolina?
Yeah, put them number 2
okay.
Or 3. Clemson, Miami, UNC, Virginia Tech. And then that 5th spot's just either Pitt, NC State, not Notre Dame because they're garbage, not in the ACC. Boston College if you wanted to. I don't care who you give it to.
Watch out for Florida State.
Yeah, they pulled a big upset last week.
COVID State. Mike Norvell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Jackson State, Jesus. Jacksonville State, it's a big
yeah.
rivalry.
That was a big upset for Florida State. That's a big win.
Big rivalry game.
My top five. I think Clemson's one, but I don't think the gap between 1 and 2 is too far. I put Miami 2.
Oh, jeez.
In terms of talent, the gap is non-existent. But in terms of just overall body of work, quarterback, everything, I think Clemson's by far not by far, but they're number one. Miami 2. Number 3 could put anybody. I think there's a bunch of teams that are grouped together. Right now, I'd probably put North Carolina 3rd, but I wouldn't be too confident in that pick. Number 4, I go Pittsburgh. Number 5, I go Notre Dame.
Oh, my
Virginia
God.
Tech.
I thought you weren't including Notre Dame after you got through number 2.
For Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, North Carolina. You can rank them wherever you want to rank them. They're all basically similar teams. I think Pittsburgh's going to rebound. We'll see.
Yeah, this is a very simple ranking. This is not difficult at all. We have Clemson, big drop-off. Notre Dame, big drop-off. And then I would say North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and I guess Miami.
Wow, you're ranking. No way.
I cannot believe that you. All right, I'm not going to engage.
The fact you have Miami in the top 10 in the ACC shocks me.
Yeah, I'm not going to engage with you not having Notre Dame as the second best team in the conference because I don't.
They're not.
Because I don't engage.
The talent isn't there.
I don't
the
engage.
Is not
I don't
there.
engage with lunacy. So we're gonna move on.
I don't engage with people saying because of the last digit of the year, our team's going to be good. I don't engage with that lunacy.
Well, at least it's true. Notre Dame.
That's like me saying Michigan State was going to go 12-0 because the last time they went 6-6, they went 11-1 afterwards.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame finishes in the top 10 every year, and now they're all of a sudden barely a top 25 team. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna go to the picks. Our first game of the week is a good one: Virginia Tech at North Carolina.
I'm taking North Carolina. They have the better coach.
This game's not so cut and dry. I don't like the way North Carolina's playing. Virginia Tech, they played pretty well to start the year with some COVID concerns early, but they've kind of rebounded from that. The Virginia game had to be rescheduled. I think it's close. I think North Carolina pulls it out. Last second field goal. Seems like they're one of those teams that they just pull out wins at the end.
Yeah, I'm going to go with North Carolina. I agree with Mike. They're like one of those gritty teams that finds ways to win. The better coach, the better quarterback. I think Virginia Tech's pretty good, but I'll take North Carolina. All right, Red River Showdown.
Oh, God. I'm going to take Texas. I don't want to, but I'm going to take them.
Well, when you're looking at which team has the most to lose, it's by far Texas. Texas has...
No, it's Tom Herman. Tom Herman has the most to lose.
Tom Herman and Texas. This is a roster that is supposed to be competing now. To me, what this Texas team and what Tom Herman reminds me of...
I hope they lose so Tom Herman gets fired.
They remind me of Penn State under James Franklin. Remember James Franklin, first couple of years, he went 7-6 a couple times. People were saying he was on the hot seat, and then he had that big year, that big win against Ohio State, which really propelled him into being a bad coach, from being a bad coach to an okay coach, where he is right now. I think Texas will do the same sometime this year. I think they'll have a good record by the end of the year. I think Texas will win. I think they'll be ready. I think they'll be buttoned up. This seems like a Tom Herman type game. Oklahoma's favored. I think Texas wins easily in this game.
No, I think it'll be a good game. Two teams that suck. But, I'll take the more experienced team, the more experienced quarterback. I'll take Texas grudgingly, but both these teams are terrible. And it's not worth your time watching this game over the Virginia Tech North Carolina game. Or the Florida. Where's the Florida? Oh, there it is. Okay. Want to make sure we're picking that game. Coastal Carolina. Okay, we're skipping this game.
No.
Tennessee at Georgia.
No.
What was the game?
Tennessee at Georgia. That's the
Coastal
game.
Carolina at Louisiana.
Oh, I'll take Louisiana.
Let me find it for a second.
Oh, yeah. You need to do a lot of research for this game?
Mike's going to pick Coastal Carolina. That's the only reason he has the game on here.
Oh, no, that game's next week. Why the hell why is this in the picks?
It shouldn't be in the picks anyways. Next game.
No, it's the 15th, Thursday, next week, 15th.
It's Wednesday. Well, we can pick it anyway.
Oh, Thursday for me.
Yeah, it's Thursday for you. It's Wednesday. It's actually a Wednesday game. Listen, this game is
I checked ESPN and it said Thursday, 1 a.m.
Yeah, mate. Listen, Coastal Carolina, they have played very well. Big win over Kansas, big win over Campbell, big win over Arkansas State. Louisiana's a very good team, number one in the Colley poll. He's the number one team in the country. Should bring on Heath, and he can talk about how great Louisiana is. They've had some close wins. Barely beat Georgia State. Barely beat Georgia Southern. Their App State game got postponed. That would have been a big game. I'm going to take Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay, next game. Tennessee at Georgia.
Tennessee, they have the longest win streak in the country. Jeremy Pruitt, let's go. Rocky top, or however the song goes.
I've seen predictions all over the place for this game. I've seen 42-14 Georgia. I've seen 23-20 Tennessee. Here's what I'll say. I think Tennessee can compete a lot better than Georgia can. I think up front they're a lot better. I think this game is going to be it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Georgia pulls it out. I think their defense comes up with a big stop, but I'll take Georgia to win.
Yeah, I'll take Georgia to win the game, but this is going to be a very, very, very good game. If you look at Georgia's schedule, this is a classic trap game. They got what? Auburn. Yeah, they have Auburn last week.
How is a rivalry game a trap game?
Oh, yeah, I mean, come on. They have Auburn their two biggest games of the year, Auburn and Alabama. The game in
Rocky
between.
Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Let's go, Rocky Top.
The game in between Auburn and Alabama is Tennessee. That's a clear trap game. That's why this game is going to be very, very close. Georgia pulls it out at the end, but I like Tennessee a lot. This game will be very close. I'll take Georgia.
Here's the thing. Here's my question. Who has more rivals, Minnesota or Georgia? Georgia has about 100 rivals. Every team in the surrounding states is a rival with them. They got Georgia Tech.
Notre Dame's up there, too.
Sure. You could say it. You could say Notre Dame's up there.
Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia Tech. Oh, no, this is
Tennessee, South Carolina.
No, Tennessee's rivals, apparently, with Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Tennessee has a lot of rivals, too.
The SEC, everyone's rivals with everybody. It's like, every time they talk about any SEC game, big rivalry game down here in the SEC, Texas A&M versus Kentucky. What?
That's a solid point, actually. I feel like Georgia has the most high level, like high stakes rivalry games. If you count Georgia Tech, the Auburn game's always big. That's a big bragging rights game. Georgia wins that thing every year. Florida game speaks for itself. South Carolina used to be a big game. South Carolina's kind of fallen off, and I think the reason why this Tennessee game is really big for them is Tennessee needs to recruit the state of Georgia. So if Tennessee comes in, they score a big upset in Athens, Sanford Stadium. That's a huge, huge boost for Jeremy Pruitt and his recruiting. If Georgia can prove that they're still the biggest guy in the block in the SEC East against a similar style of team like Tennessee, then that would be big for them as well. But yeah,
no team. I think the better comparison to James Franklin's Jeremy Pruitt right now, not Tom Herman. Yeah. But no team should have more than 2 rivals, 3 at the max. More than that, just absurd. Every game on some of these teams' schedule is a rivalry game.
All right, we need to move on to the next game. North Carolina State at Virginia.
I'll take Bronco Mendenhall in Virginia.
I'm going to take NC State. I was impressed with what they did against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because they beat Pitt.
Exactly.
This is the old Chris strategy.
This is the only reason that this game is on here, I believe.
Well, yes, but also I think that, I was impressed. NC State against Virginia Tech, they played all right. Played a very good Pittsburgh team, beat them. And listen, Virginia, I don't know what to think about Virginia. They've lost some guys to the NFL, lost their quarterback. The coach is still there, good foundation. But I think right now NC State, I think they found something. I think NC State's going to have a good year. I'll take NC State.
Yeah, no. Virginia is
every half the games we pick around here just because Mike likes taking the upset.
Yeah, that's what we do in basketball when I have games.
That's BS.
That's why I put games on there for basketball.
This week there are not a lot of great games this week.
Yeah, there are. Anyways, Virginia's going to win this game big. This is a big letdown game for North Carolina State after the win last week. Also, look at Virginia. They got that win against Duke. They blew them out. And then they had this Clemson. They hung in there against Clemson last week. Most teams don't do that. Most teams don't lose by 18 points to Clemson. They hung in there.
There are no moral victories.
They hung in there. They
covered. They're a great team because they covered.
That's a good point. I'm taking Virginia. Okay, next game, probably the headliner at the 12 o'clock slot, Florida and Texas A&M.
I'm taking Florida. I trust
Texas
Kyle
A&M.
Trask. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm taking Florida. I trust Trask more than I trust Kellen Mond after watching last week.
All signs point towards a Florida win pretty easily. You look at Texas A&M secondary has been garbage. They were garbage against Alabama. Florida has had statistically the best offense in college football. Kyle Trask playing very well, so I'm still skeptical of Kyle Trask. The Florida's defense has been been a hot mess to say the least. I think Texas A&M, I think they hang in there. And Florida, we'll see what happens. This is a very interesting game. It's going to be raining, hurricane, not hurricane force winds, but it'll be windy. I don't think Florida's going to be able to throw the ball as well as they have been.
In that case, I would want to take Texas A&M because Kellen Mond runs it better than Kyle Trask. So I'm going to stick with my pick.
Yeah, I'm going with the. Listen, I'm 6 games up on the picks right now. I'm picking the upset. I'm going Texas A&M.
Yeah, this is also my upset of the week. I'm going to take A&M.
I'm changing my pick. No, I'm joking.
Florida. I really like Florida. I still think they're going to make the playoff. I think they're going to win every game the rest of the year. But this has been. I talked about this for a couple months now. That this was going to be the game they lose at Texas A&M, and this only helps me that this game's the hurricane force winds. The game's going to be slowed down.
Hey, Chris.
It's going to be more running the ball. I like A&M.
Hey, Chris. Florida plays at Tennessee in December. They are going to get destroyed.
Why would
You're telling me a team in Florida is going to be able to play in Tennessee in November or in December? That's going to be like 45 degrees. Yeah, no chance they win that game.
Yeah, no, they're not going to lose that game. That's going to be the last game of the season against a team they're better than. They're going to be desperate to win that game.
In conditions they're not used to playing. We see these Florida teams come up north especially the Pinstripe Bowl. That was a great example of it, and they just fall apart.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine with that game. But they're going to lose this game to A&M. Okay. The next game on the schedule is Kansas State at TCU.
I'm taking TCU.
Yeah, I think the line is so big for TCU because there's questions about the quarterback for Kansas State. What's his name?
What do you mean?
Skylar Thompson. He got banged up last game. Not sure if he's going to play.
Chris Kleiman?
What?
Chris Kleiman?
I said the quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback, Chris Kleiman.
Yeah, the quarterback, Chris Kleiman, for Kansas State.
He's still there, right? Yep.
Anyways.
Colin Klein. I meant Colin Klein.
Yeah, what the hell? I was going to say, what the hell are you talking about?
I meant Colin Klein.
Anyways, I think Taylor.
Chris
Tanner,
Kleiman's
what's
their
his name?
coach, right?
Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, Kleiman's their coach.
Colin Klein's actually their QB coach right now.
Is he
Fun
really?
fact. Yeah.
Well, listen, I think TCU. What's his name? Tanner Duggan. Is that his name?
Max Duggan.
Max Duggan. Where the hell did I get Tanner Duggan from?
Tanner
Max
Morgan.
Duggan. Oh yeah, maybe that. Yes, that's actually a good point. I probably did get it from Tanner Morgan. Yeah, so I think TCU will win also, and I'm just the uncertainty for Kansas State quarterbacks is too much.
Yeah. It's let
This
down.
might end up being the game of the week, though. This could end up being a really good game.
All right. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's letdown week for TCU after the big win last week against Texas, and that's the only reason I'm going to take Kansas State. All right, Pittsburgh at Boston College.
Give me Jeff Halfley in Boston College.
Look at this game. What's the spread? BC plus 6.5. I think it's a good matchup for Pittsburgh. It would even be a better matchup if Adazio was the coach and they would try to run into a brick wall. That is the Pittsburgh defense. I still think it's a good matchup for Pittsburgh, both sides of the football. I think Kenny Pickett's been showing that he's an elite quarterback last couple of games. I think Pittsburgh wins. Then I think they cover. I think they win by 13 to 14 points, like 28 to 13, 20 to 14.
Yeah, after that loss last week, I think Pittsburgh does bounce back. BC, they basically won last week with the way they played. So this is a letdown week for BC.
There are no moral victories.
No, they covered.
That's right. No moral victories.
They covered.
Nope. You either win or you lose.
Well, they won because they beat the spread. So, yeah, I like Pittsburgh in this game, and I think they're going to blow them out, like 6-1. That's my final score. Okay, next game. Let's see. Mississippi State at Kentucky.
Oh, Mississippi State. Oh, here's the problem with Mississippi State. Mississippi State's going to beat all the good teams in the SEC because all the good teams are going to think they can beat them playing man-to-man coverage because they have the talent to do it. And they'll beat them every time doing that. The problem is when they play the not-so-good teams and they do what Barry Odom in Arkansas did last week where they let them catch the ball in front of you and they just tackle. I don't think Mississippi State is going to be able to win as many games. But I think they'll beat Kentucky this week. So I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
Well, Chris came on the podcast a couple weeks ago saying how great KJ Costello is. And what did I say last week?
This is the weirdest thing. This is the weirdest thing with Chris right now. Because he's big on KJ Costello, but he also loves to hate on Mike Leach. So they win, it's all because of KJ Costello. And when they lose, it's all, oh, look at Mike Leach, he can't coach.
Yeah. Exactly. Here's the problem with KJ Costello. I think he's reckless with the football sometimes, and I don't think Mike Leach likes that.
I don't think he throws a great ball.
I was telling Chris that just don't be shocked if KJ Costello gets benched one of these times.
Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that.
No, I just don't think he's as accurate as he needs to be.
Yeah, I mean he'll make the great throws.
That's the thing. That's the thing that made Minshew great and Anthony Gordon great is that they were more accurate than arm strength.
Yeah, exactly. You saw it from
they put
Luke
the ball
Falk.
where it needed to be when it needed to be put.
When they had Luke Falk, he wasn't that great, and then they brought in Minshew, who was very good, and you saw how the offense could click. But I think Kentucky's 0-2. I think they're a pretty talented roster. I think they're more talented than Mississippi State. And I think being 0-2, I think, what's his name? Mark Stoops, or the hell his name is. One of the Stoops. I think he'll be ready. I think Kentucky wins this game. And my hot take, I think KJ Costello gets benched in this game.
My gosh. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I could see Kentucky winning this game. This is a toss-up for me. I'll take MSU just because I can't just hop off after 1 week. So
you're a Michigan State fan now? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
MSU?
Yeah, I'm right. I'm all on them this year.
Sellout.
Okay, last game. Miami,
you're a big fan of sellouts, Chris.
Miami at Clemson.
Clemson. The lefty Trevor Lawrence will get it done.
Wow. I mean, I was telling Chris throughout the week I might take Miami in this game. And listen, if this game was in Coral Gables, was in Hard Rock Stadium, I might consider it. I think Clemson. I think the game's close, and I say there's no moral victories. There is moral victories. If Miami keeps this game close, by close I mean within a touchdown,
30 points,
within 10 points, I think that's a victory for them.
No, you either win or you lose.
They can hang around with Clemson. Clemson wins.
Unless Manny Diaz is betting on the game, which wouldn't shock me.
Do you guys
they're
remember?
They're going to be down. They're going to be down. What's the spread on the game?
14.5.
It's Clemson 15 minus 15
now.
Yeah, well, they'll be down like 16, and instead of going for 2, he'll kick the extra point, and because he has plus 15 and he wants to cover.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like Clemson to win. Do you guys remember that Louisville Lamar Jackson game against Deshaun Watson at Clemson? I think it's gonna be a similar game to that. I think Miami keeps it close, but I think Clemson will win at the end.
Dare you compare the Louisville team to Miami?
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. This Miami team is 10 times better.
I don't know what your obsession is with Miami. They have no good wins. They have zero. They've beaten no good teams.
Louisville. Listen, Louisville's playing well right now.
They're about to lose to Georgia Tech. They have no good wins. This team is not good.
Listen. Miami, I don't care, okay?
Chris, Georgia Tech, that's a good team. The Paul Johnson effect.
Exactly, the Paul Johnson effect. You got to keep that in mind. But listen, the way Miami's won, it's not just because they've beaten bad teams. They look like a real team now. They did not look like a real football team.
I don't care. They suck.
And you know they have the talent.
No, they don't. Show me the recruiting.
Pretty well. What?
Show me the recruiting. They have no talent. This team is not good.
No, they do have talent. They have talent everywhere.
No, they don't. They're not a good team. They're a bad football team.
Talent on defense. Defense is talented. Wide receiving core. I think they've got talent everywhere.
This is an average football team. This is a team that will finish maybe ranked in the top 25. I would probably say they're going to finish outside the top 25.
No, they'll finish ranked 17th. That's where they finish every year.
No, they will finish ranked probably outside the top 25. I think.
Well, you can't be ranked outside the top 25. You're either ranked or you're not ranked. You
can't
be ranked outside the top 25.
Okay. The line on this game is 15. If I was making the line, I would probably have it around 49.5 for Clemson, and I would pick Clemson to cover that. I think Clemson wins this game by at least 50 points.
I don't know. They couldn't score a single point in the second half against Citadel.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Chris, when De'Aaron King has a 4th and 10 in Clemson territory, down 5, with a chance to win,
and they kick a field goal.
Because Manny bet the money line. He bet the money line on Clemson.
Yeah. No, he needs it for the second half spread.
Yeah.
Second half spread.
No, he needs it because he picked the under, and the over-under is right at the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Field goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, there is no way. This is going to be an absolute blowout. Clemson's going to destroy it.
You said that for the Louisville game, and Miami did the exact opposite of what you said.
Because Louisville sucks.
You said you would have taken Louisville by 100 points.
Because Louisville sucks. They're terrible.
Okay. No, you can't go back and forth.
They are. They're awful. They're horrible.
Okay, you said they were great going into that game.
No, I was wrong. I'm pretty sure Clemson's great. Clemson's going to win this game.
You said Louisville, after Miami won by 25, you said Louisville would have won that game 99 out of 100 times.
They probably still would have. But Clemson, let me give my final score prediction before we end this. 63-6, Clemson. Okay.
No, you're on crack.
Any final thoughts?
Manny Diaz is going to go for 2.
Manny Diaz is going to go for 2.
Is he on the hot seat? Is he on the hot seat? He's got to be on the hot seat, right?
I don't know. Well, I think it's a little early for him to be on the hot seat.
No, it's never too early to be on the hot seat. Jimbo Fisher's on the hot seat, actually.
Well, if Texas A&M fires Jimbo Fisher, they will never hire another competent coach ever again.
Mike Gundy's on the hot seat.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast.
Gus Malzahn's number 10 on the hot seat.
We'll be back next week. I'm sure Alex will be back with us, but we'll see. Thank you all for watching.
Manny Diaz is 2 spots out of the way.
And we will be back next week.